In 2018, I pointed out when Bitcoin was about 10,000, it was going to drop a zero. I was 70% right, 30% wrong because it went down to 3,000. I'm saying the same thing now. I think it can go back to 10,000.
Bloomberg Intelligence just predicted this about Bitcoin.
And it's classic peak bull market stuff I remember seeing in 1999.
That Bitcoin's price is headed to 10K, while Citibank, $1.7 trillion heavily respected Citibank, is arguing the opposite.
Going forward, the liquidity squeeze for the Bitcoin weakness should actually get much better because we expect...
What's actually next for Bitcoin, and what do I need to know as a crypto investor? Watch today's whole video because it starts understanding that Bitcoin whales are buying the dip below $100,000 Bitcoin. So this is a chart showing the price of Bitcoin in black combined with, in green, the number of entities with a balance of over 1,000 Bitcoin, meaning whales, Bitcoin whales. And what do we notice? We see as soon as the Bitcoin price dipped under $100,000 per coin, the Bitcoin whale buying exploded, meaning the buyers at these price levels are starting to step in, just like when Bitcoin was above 100K, we see, as Bitcoin went above 100 into the $120,000 price range, the sellers started to step in, the buyers became exhausted, and the sellers stepped up. Now we're seeing the buyers step up in a big, big way. And why this matters is because the smart money, presumably, because they have a lot of money, the whales are stepping up to buy at these levels and taking Bitcoin from the impatient, taking Bitcoin from the minnows. Whales are buying the dip as small holders offload. Wallets holding over 1,000 Bitcoin jumped 2.2% to over 1,384, the highest in 4 months. I believe this is a generational buy the dip opportunity. If Bitcoin dips lower in the short term, I believe it becomes a greater buy the dip opportunity because there's 3 big catalysts that I believe will drive Bitcoin and the broader crypto markets price higher in 2026. Let's listen to why Citibank, heavily respected Citibank, believes the liquidity crunch for Bitcoin is ending. They also believe Bitcoin's going higher. Let's look at that. Then I want to give you my thoughts, and then we'll play the inverse. Why Bloomberg believes we're going lower. Let's watch Citibank.
There are a couple of things going on in Bitcoin that are interesting. First, there was a flash crash in early October. And that, for Bitcoin itself, it was a 14% move down over 2 days. Maybe not that drastic, but some of the altcoins really got sold much, much harder. And after this flash crash, we saw that the flows into the Bitcoin ETFs and so forth really changed. So the flows really never recovered, and so retail was apparently somewhat shell-shocked by that day, and we saw outflows. The other thing that happened is that I think a lot of the institutional investors trade Bitcoin with a bit of a trend-following mindset, and so we broke some of the moving averages that they tend to look at, and that is also reducing the source of demand. But the third point is what you were mentioning, and that is that the liquidity, which we measure by bank reserves on the Fed balance sheet, dropped by a bit more than 500 billion. And that happened because the Treasury increased the Treasury General account at the Fed by selling a lot of T-bills. And there were 2 reasons for that. One is why this TGA account was so high. One is that that during the government shutdown, the Treasury didn't spend as much, so that account rose mechanically on the back of that. But secondly, they did sell more T-bills than is typical. And so we are thinking going forward, the liquidity squeeze, so that explanation for the Bitcoin weakness should actually get much better because we expect TGA to at the very least flatten out and probably decline, meaning bank reserves and the liquidity should improve between now and the end, partly because of the reopening and partly because the Treasury sold so many T-bills already.
And really what Citibank is saying is that the reason assets were in a liquidity crunch, and Bitcoin is always the most volatile, it's always the most reactive to liquidity, is in large part because the government was shut down. That's the liquidity crunch. Now that the government is reopened, we should see the inverse. That's good for Bitcoin. We also just got a new update on the Clarity Act. Coinbase CEO is in Congress, he's in Washington, and he expects to see the passing of this legislation in December. To me, that's crypto. This is crypto's. This legislation is crypto's 1996 early internet moment. because it was in the year 1996 that the internet passed the Telecommunications Bill of 1996 that regulated the internet in a large part. For the very first time, crypto's finally being regulated. Yes, there's dips, and you could say in 1996, yeah, we're getting this huge piece, the Telecommunications Act of legislation, but is the internet really going to be big in 1997 and 1999? Yeah, and even bigger in 2005, in 2015, and today. That's finally happening with crypto. Brian Armstrong believes by December. Here's the update.
Hey everyone, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO here. I'm in the halls of Congress, back again, pushing for market structure legislation. We've seen a lot of progress since I was last here. We've now seen draft text shared by the Senate Ad Committee. Senate Banking is also working nights and weekends to get the next iteration of their text out. So we've got a good chance, I think, of a markup for this bill in December, hopefully get it to the president's desk shortly thereafter. This would be a big milestone to get crypto unlocked with clear rules in the US, which would benefit all companies.
This is why you subscribe to Altcoin Daily for perspective. It's completely free. It costs you nothing. We drop a video every single day, keeping you informed on the crypto market. And again, all these things combined, let me know where crypto's headed long-term directionally. Because you're a fool to try and predict, I think Bitcoin will do this by next week or this by next month. But directionally and story-wise, because markets are narratives, markets are stories, the story of crypto is not slowing down. The story of stablecoin adoption is not slowing down either. Visa expands stablecoin support across ETH, Solana, Stellar, and Avalanche.
It starts with Visa Direct. So Visa Direct is our cross-border real-time money movement platform. Today, if you wanted to send money to someone, you could load your bank card into it. You could also use your bank account. But now we're adding stablecoin wallets as a way to receive money. And so if you're a business and you want to send money to your creator, for example, in the market, you can just have them load their stablecoin address and it sends the money to them immediately.
So understanding all that, how could Bloomberg Intelligence predict the Bitcoin price is going to 10K, and what reasoning do they provide? Let's watch this clip and then react.
In 2018, I pointed out when Bitcoin was about 10,000, it was going to drop a zero. I was 70% right, 30% wrong because it went down to 3,000. I'm saying the same thing now. I think it can go back to 10,000. I mean, that includes everything going lower, unfortunately, means the stock market. And it's just normal. The key difference is from back then, there was only a few thousand cryptocurrencies. Now there's multi-millions, and we've had that pile in from ETFs, the Trump administration kicking in and accelerating it, and it's classic peak bull market stuff I remember seeing in 1999. So in the previous segment, Paul mentioned the VIX at 25. You look at that VIX 200-day moving average, it's a bull flag. Right now it's averaging about 19.5, and the key fact is 120-day realized volatility in the S&P 500 is around 10%. If we end the year there, not only is it half the VIX, but it'll be the lowest since 2017. So I'm expecting this Bitcoin plunge to trickle down to the stock market, volatility to pick up, maybe just get to its average around 16%, and the whole thing tilts lower into the year end. I don't know what stops it at this point.
So Bloomberg Intelligence is essentially saying that they expect Bitcoin to go to 10K, not because anything has fundamentally changed with Bitcoin. No, it's because they're betting on all markets are going to get wiped out. They believe AI is in a bubble, and they believe all markets are going lower, and Bitcoin is the most volatile. Now, what you'll notice is the Bitcoin price is very much range bound. The sellers step up around 115 to 125. The buyers step up below 100K, and especially in this $90,000 range. So I'm not saying that we can't dip lower. In fact, I'm saying I don't know what the Bitcoin price will do in a month, let alone tomorrow. But long term, we understand the directionality of crypto is not changing. The story of crypto over the next 5-10 years isn't changing, as well as the AI story isn't going away, in the sense that is AI in a bubble? I would say any one or two AI companies can be overvalued, need a correction at any time. But it's not like next year nobody's going to talk about AI anymore. No, this is a race against China, a race against other countries, much like the internet race, much like the moon race in the 60s. If the Bitcoin price breaks below this $90,000 to $100,000 range, then obviously the next two major buy the dip opportunities. We have this support range in the 65 to 70, maybe even $75,000 range. That would be the next level of support, essentially Liberation Day's levels. And besides that, we have this very well-respected, in quotes, very well-respected support of the 200-week moving average. We've gone through many bull and bear cycles before, and we've always came back down to the 200-week moving average. So if the worst should happen, 10K, I don't think that will ever happen again. That would be crazy. But 55K, maybe this brings up to 60 in the worst case scenario. But again, to me, this is 1996 Telecommunications Act is the Clarity Act crypto today. Give me your thoughts down below. I'm going to put a few links down below, limited time offers. If you made it this far in today's video, take advantage. Link down below. Check them out. Like always, see you tomorrow.